A single mother was thrown out of the church after the wedding until a millionaire stepped forward. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Imagine being at the most important day of your life, the day you thought was going to change everything, only to have it all come crashing down in an instant. This is exactly what happened to a single mother who thought she had found the happiness she'd been searching for. But little did she know, this wedding would be just the beginning of a life-altering journey. Stay tuned to find out how a twist of fate brought an unexpected millionaire into her life. It was a chilly spring morning in a small church on the outskirts of town. The soft hum of guests, whispering in excitement as they waited for the bride to appear. The church was adorned with white roses and soft golden lights, casting a warm glow over everything. For Sarah, the single mother who had fought through years of hardship, this was supposed to be the day that would mark the beginning of a new chapter. She had met Greg, a kind-hearted man, a few months ago, and what started as a casual fling had blossomed into love. He wasn't rich, but his affection made her feel like a queen. Now, here she was, in the most beautiful wedding dress she could afford, with her son, Jamie, by her side, hoping that this moment would erase the struggles of the past. As the ceremony progressed, everything seemed perfect. The vows were exchanged, promises of love and loyalty filled the air, and for a moment, Sarah felt like she was living in a dream. But as they shared their first kiss as husband and wife, something unexpected happened. There was a quiet murmur among the guests, then a hushed voice at the back of the church. Sarah's heart sank. "She's not really married, is she? Did you see who she's marrying?" Sarah turned, following the whispers. Her face flushed as she realized what was happening. A few guests were shaking their heads. Others looked confused. The wedding had barely finished when the church's head elder approached, his face stern. "I'm sorry, but you and your son cannot stay here," he said, his voice cold. "This is a house of God, and we do not condone these situations. You're not welcome here." The words hit Sarah like a slap. Her mind raced as she tried to process the rejection, but nothing seemed to make sense. She glanced at Greg, hoping for some sign that he would stand up for her. But he was silent. He looked lost, as though he didn't know how to handle the situation either. The elder turned away, his back cold and unforgiving. Greg reached for Sarah's arm, but she pulled away, feeling humiliated and alone. She looked down at her son, who was clutching her hand, his innocent eyes full of confusion. "Mommy, why are we leaving?" Jamie asked softly. Sarah couldn't find the words to answer. Her heart was breaking for him. She had hoped for a fresh start, a life with love and security. But now, she was being kicked out of the place she thought would be a sanctuary. She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. "Let's just go home," she whispered, though the word home felt more and more distant. As she walked out of the church, the sound of the door closing behind her felt like a final nail in the coffin of her dreams. Her hopes of building a new life were shattered in that instant, and the sting of rejection cut deep. Just as she was about to step into her car, a man stepped forward. He was tall, dressed in a sleek black suit, his face serious yet calm. His eyes met hers, and for a moment, she thought he might be just another person judging her. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice surprisingly gentle. Sarah looked up at him, confused. I don't know what happened," she said, her voice barely a whisper. The man studied her for a moment, as though weighing his next words carefully. "I saw what happened inside. You shouldn't have been treated that way," he said. "I can help you." Sarah blinked, unsure if she had heard him correctly. "Help me?" she repeated, her voice trembling. He nodded. "My name is Jonathan Reeves. I'm a CEO at a company that helps people in need. You deserve better than this. If you'll let me, I'll offer you a place to stay, help with your son, and give you a chance to rebuild your life." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "A place to stay? But why would you help me?" Sarah was still trying to process the sudden shift in her circumstances. Jonathan smiled. a faint, reassuring smile. Sometimes, all we need is someone who sees the value in us, even when we don't see it ourselves. I see potential in you, and I want to help. Sarah didn't know what to say. The shock of the church's rejection, combined with the unexpected kindness from this stranger, left her feeling both confused and overwhelmed. Could she really trust him? Was this just another empty promise? But in that moment, she saw something in Jonathan's eyes, something genuine. She had been rejected by the very people who were supposed to support her. But here was a man offering her a chance when she had nothing left. Maybe, just maybe, this was the second chance she had been waiting for. Stay tuned to see what happens next in Sarah's journey. Will she accept this mysterious millionaire's help, or will she reject it out of fear and pride? Keep watching to find out what happens in the next chapter of her life. After Jonathan's unexpected offer, Sarah stood there for a moment, still reeling from the chaos of the day. Her wedding had turned into a nightmare, and now this stranger, this millionaire, was offering her a way out. She looked at him, unsure of what to do next. Was it a joke? Was he just trying to make her feel better? But something about him felt real, genuine. His calm demeanor and the sincerity in his eyes gave her a glimmer of hope, something she hadn't felt in a long time. She took a deep breath, trying to collect herself. I don't know. This all feels so sudden, she said, her voice trembling slightly. Why would you help me? You don't even know me. Jonathan's gaze softened, and he gave her a reassuring smile. I know it's a lot to take in, he replied. But sometimes, when life throws you into the deep end, you have to reach out for help. I can offer you a chance to rebuild, a safe place to stay, and most importantly, a fresh start. He paused for a moment, letting his words sink in. Sarah's mind raced. She had never been the type to accept help from anyone, let alone a stranger with such an extravagant offer. She was used to doing things on her own, surviving on her own. But what other choice did she have? She couldn't go back to the same life, not after everything that had happened. She glanced down at Jamie, who was still holding her hand tightly, his little face full of confusion. What do you think, sweetie? Sarah asked, trying to sound calm, even though her heart was pounding in her chest. Jamie looked up at her with wide eyes, his innocent trust in her unwavering. If it's okay with you, Mom, Jamie said softly, his voice so sweet and pure. Maybe we can go with him. Maybe he can help us like you said. His simple words hit Sarah like a wave. She had spent so long trying to protect him from the world's harsh realities, but right now, he was trusting her to make the right choice. Jonathan noticed the exchange and took a step back, giving Sarah space to think. Take your time, he said gently. I won't rush you. I understand this is a big decision. He gave her a moment of peace, as if allowing her to gather her thoughts. Sarah felt a mix of emotions swirling inside her. On one hand, she was terrified of accepting help, of opening herself up to someone who could have ulterior motives. But on the other hand, this was a rare opportunity, something she had never imagined for herself. The promise of stability, of security for her son, was something she couldn't ignore. She had always been independent, but now, in this moment, she realized that accepting help didn't mean weakness. It meant taking control of her future. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Sarah nodded. All right, she said quietly. I'll accept your offer. But I need to know what I'm walking into. What exactly are you offering? Her voice was firm now, the uncertainty replaced by a cautious resolve. Jonathan smiled again, this time with a hint of pride in his eyes. You'll have a place to stay, of course. I'll arrange for everything. You and your son will have your own room in one of my properties. I'll also help you with any immediate needs you may have, like a job or schooling for Jamie. But most importantly, I want to give you the tools to build a better life. This is not just charity. This is a partnership. You'll have the opportunity to grow, to succeed. His words were calm but powerful, and Sarah could see that he meant every one of them. Sarah swallowed hard, her thoughts racing. This wasn't just about a place to stay, it was a chance to change her life, to build a future for herself and Jamie. She couldn't remember the last time she felt this kind of hope. Jonathan's eyes lit up with approval. I'm glad to hear that. You won't regret this, Sarah. He reached into his pocket and handed her a business card. Call me when you're ready. We can get everything set up. I'll make sure you're taken care of. As he turned to leave, he paused, looking back at her. "One last thing," he added. "I know this may feel like an overwhelming decision, but I want you to know you're not alone in this. You and your son deserve a better life, and I'm here to help make that happen." With that, Jonathan walked away, leaving Sarah standing there, the weight of her decision settling in. She took a deep breath, looking at Jamie, who was still holding her hand. For the first time in what felt like forever, Sarah felt the spark of hope ignite in her heart. Maybe this was the beginning of something new, something better. Maybe Jonathan, the millionaire who had stepped into her life when she least expected it, would be the one to help her rebuild everything she had lost. Stay tuned to see how Sarah navigates this new chapter in her life. Will she truly be able to start over, or will the challenges ahead be too much? Keep watching to find out what happens next. It had been a few days since Sarah agreed to Jonathan's offer, and she was still processing the whirlwind of events that had turned her life upside down. The days since the wedding fiasco had been a blur, and now she found herself standing in front of a massive building that was worlds apart from anything she had ever known. The building's sleek, glass facade reflected the city lights, its sheer size making Sarah feel small and insignificant. Yet, despite the overwhelming nature of it all, a sense of relief washed over her. This was the fresh start she had so desperately needed, even if it was wrapped in uncertainty. As she entered the lobby, the doorman greeted her with a polite nod, and she could feel the difference between this world and the one she had known for so long. The lobby was immaculate, with marble floors that gleamed under the soft lighting, and the air was scented with the faintest hint of expensive perfume. Sarah's heart raced as she followed the elevator attendant up to the top floor, where she would be staying. She had always imagined what a rich person's life might look like, but never in her wildest dreams did she think she'd be a part of it. When the elevator doors opened, Sarah was met with an expansive apartment, the kind she had only seen in magazines or movies. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city, and the sleek furniture looked like it belonged in a high-end showroom. She felt out of place, like she didn't belong here. But then again, wasn't this what she had hoped for? A chance to build something better for herself and Jamie? As she set down her small bag, she glanced around the apartment, her mind still reeling from the fact that this was now her new home, at least for the time being. Jamie, who had been quiet for most of the ride, was now exploring the apartment with wide eyes. "Mom, this place is amazing," he said, his voice full of wonder. Sarah couldn't help but smile at his excitement. "I know, sweetie. It's a little different, but we'll make it work." She knelt down to his level and hugged him tightly. "Just remember, this doesn't change us. We'll always have each other." Jamie nodded enthusiastically, his smile bright as he wrapped his arms around her. Later that evening, after settling in, Sarah received a call from Jonathan. "I hope everything's going well," he said, his voice as calm and reassuring as always. "I just wanted to check in and see if you need anything. And don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions." Sarah paused for a moment before speaking. "Thank you, Jonathan. Honestly, it's a lot to take in. This place, it's so different from anything I've ever known, but I'm grateful. It's just overwhelming." There was a long pause on the other end of the line, and she could feel Jonathan's understanding even through the phone. "I understand, Sarah. This is a big change, but you're not alone in this. I'm here to help, and you have a fresh start ahead of you. Take your time to adjust. I know you'll do well." His words were comforting, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that there was still something she didn't know about him, about why he was helping her so much. But she pushed that thought aside for now. It wasn't the time to question his motives. As Sarah hung up the phone, she walked over to the window, her gaze drifting out to the city below. The lights were bright, and the streets were bustling with life, but it all felt distant to her. She was surrounded by luxury, but her heart was still heavy with the weight of her past. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was all just a temporary escape, a reprieve from the reality she had lived for so long. But the question lingered, was she truly ready to start over, to trust in the help of a man who barely knew her? The next morning, Sarah was woken by the soft chime of her phone. It was a message from Jonathan. "I've arranged a meeting for you at my foundation. I want to get you set up with a job and see where you can go from here. Let me know what time works best for you." Sarah stared at the message for a moment, unsure. A job? She hadn't had a real job in years, and she wasn't sure she was ready to step into something so formal yet. but the opportunity was too good to pass up. She had to take the chance. She replied quickly, setting up a time to meet, and then got Jamie ready for the day. As they left the apartment, Sarah felt a mix of nerves and excitement. She wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was moving in the right direction. Later that afternoon, Sarah arrived at the foundation's headquarters. It was a modern office building with clean lines and a minimalist design. Inside, she was greeted by a woman named Claire, who worked directly with Jonathan. Claire was warm and welcoming, and after a quick introduction, she led Sarah to an office where they could discuss the next steps. "We're excited to have you here, Sarah," Claire said, as she sat across from her. "Jonathan has spoken highly of you, and we believe you have a lot of potential. This foundation helps people like you, people who need a fresh start. We'll work with you every step of the way." Sarah nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope spark within her. Could this be the fresh start she had been dreaming of? The chance to rebuild her life from scratch, to prove to herself and Jamie that they could have a future full of possibility? She wasn't sure yet, but as the meeting continued, she realized that maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something truly life-changing. Stay tuned to see how Sarah navigates her new life, and whether she can truly trust the man who has opened this door for her. Will she find the courage to embrace the opportunities before her, or will fear hold her back? Keep watching to find out. The next few weeks were a whirlwind for Sarah. She settled into her new life, trying to adapt to the pace and the luxury that now surrounded her, but the doubts never fully left her mind. Every time she stepped into the sleek building of the foundation or into Jonathan's office, she felt a sharp contrast between the life she had known and the one that was unfolding before her. But there was something else growing inside her, too, a sense of possibility, something she hadn't felt in years. Slowly but surely, Sarah began to take on small tasks at the foundation, learning the ropes and realizing that, perhaps, she was capable of more than she had ever thought. One afternoon, Sarah found herself sitting in a small conference room, preparing for her first real meeting at the foundation. Jonathan had arranged for her to be involved in a new project, one that would provide financial support and resources to single mothers like herself. It felt so strange to be sitting at a table with people who seemed so polished, so successful. But as the meeting progressed, Sarah realized she had something valuable to offer. Her experiences, the struggles she had gone through, gave her a unique perspective that no one else at the table could bring. Jonathan was sitting at the head of the table, watching her closely, and for the first time, Sarah felt like she belonged. The way he spoke to her with respect, the way he listened, he made her feel seen, like her voice mattered. After the meeting, Jonathan asked her to stay behind for a moment. Sarah was nervous but followed him into his office. "You did well today," Jonathan said, his voice sincere. "I knew you had it in you. This is just the beginning for you, Sarah. I'm proud of how far you've come in such a short amount of time." His words were simple, but they meant more to her than he could ever know. Sarah felt a warm wave of gratitude wash over her. "Thank you, Jonathan," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm still trying to get used to all of this. Sometimes, it feels like a dream." She glanced out the window, trying to gather her thoughts. "I never imagined that I'd be here, in a place like this." Her heart was still a little heavy with uncertainty, but in that moment, she realized just how far she had come. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was learning, growing, and making a real difference. "You're not the only one making a difference here," Jonathan said, walking over to the window and looking out at the city below. "You're helping to create something meaningful for others. You have more strength than you give yourself credit for." Sarah didn't know what to say. There was so much gratitude inside her, but it was mixed with a certain amount of confusion. She was still grappling with why Jonathan had stepped into her life so suddenly, and why he seemed so invested in her success. Just as Sarah was about to ask him more about his motivations, there was a knock on the door. A young woman entered, carrying a folder full of paperwork. "Jonathan, we have a meeting scheduled in 15 minutes, the woman said, offering a polite smile. Jonathan nodded, but then turned back to Sarah with a thoughtful look. "We'll continue this conversation later," he said. "But just know, Sarah, that you're on the right path. You've already made a bigger impact than you realize." As he turned to leave, Sarah felt a small pang of doubt in her chest. There was something mysterious about Jonathan, something that still hadn't fully made sense to her. After the meeting, Sarah found herself walking through the bustling city streets, her mind racing. She was grateful for everything Jonathan had done, but she still wondered, what did he want from her? He was a millionaire, successful beyond anything she could imagine, and yet he had given her this second chance without asking for anything in return. She couldn't help but feel that there was more to the story, that there was something she didn't know. But for now, she pushed those thoughts aside. She had come this far, and she wasn't about to let fear or uncertainty stop her from embracing the opportunities before her. As the weeks passed, Sarah grew more confident in her work at the foundation, and Jamie was thriving in his new school. The stability they had longed for was finally within reach. Still, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was coming. Something that would change everything once again. She wasn't sure if she was ready for it, but with Jonathan's help, she had learned one important thing. Sometimes, you have to trust in the unexpected, even when it feels like a leap of faith. Stay tuned to see what happens next in Sarah's journey. Will she finally uncover the secrets Jonathan is keeping from her? Or will she continue to build the new life she's always dreamed of? Keep watching to find out. As the days passed, Sarah found herself slowly but steadily settling into her new life. The foundation work was becoming more familiar, and she felt more comfortable in the role she was beginning to carve out for herself. Still, there were moments when she questioned whether she truly belonged here, in this world of wealth and luxury that seemed so far removed from the life she had known. But with each passing day, those doubts began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of confidence and purpose. One evening, after finishing a long day of work, Sarah returned to the apartment she had come to think of as home. She entered through the sleek glass doors of the building, her heels clicking against the polished floors as she walked to the elevator. It had become a routine, a strange but comforting rhythm. The city lights were sparkling through the window as she stepped into her apartment. But tonight something felt different. As she set down her things, she noticed a small package on the kitchen counter. It was wrapped neatly in brown paper with a simple note attached. Sarah frowned in confusion as she picked it up and read the note. "For you, from Jonathan." Her heart skipped a beat. Jonathan had done so much for her already. What was this now? She carefully unwrapped the package, her hands trembling slightly. Inside, she found a beautiful leather-bound journal. The kind she had always dreamed of owning, but could never afford. There was a soft gasp as Sarah opened the first page, finding an inscription written in Jonathan's neat handwriting. "For your thoughts, your dreams, and your future. Use this to write your story, Sarah." A lump formed in her throat. She had always loved to write, but after everything that had happened in her life, she had stopped. She had stopped believing that her story mattered. But this simple gesture, this gift, made her realize that maybe Jonathan saw something in her she hadn't even recognized in herself. She closed the journal for a moment, her mind racing with emotions. This man, who had given her so much, who had stepped into her life without expecting anything in return, was offering her something more than just material things. He was offering her a chance to rediscover herself, to believe in the future again. Sarah didn't know exactly what he expected from her. But right now, she didn't need to know. What mattered was that she had a second chance, one she had never imagined for herself. The next day, as Sarah sat at her desk in the foundation's office, she couldn't help but think about Jonathan's gesture. It wasn't just the journal, it was the faith he had in her, the belief that she was capable of more than she had ever realized. She took a deep breath and opened the journal again, running her fingers over the smooth pages. There were no expectations, no rules. She could write whatever she wanted. She could finally start telling her own story. Just as Sarah was lost in her thoughts, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Jonathan. "I have a surprise for you tomorrow. I hope you're ready." Sarah's heart raced a little. A surprise? What could it be? She typed a quick reply, asking what it was, but he didn't answer right away. She shook her head, smiling to herself. Jonathan had a way of keeping things mysterious, of keeping her on her toes. She had no idea what he was planning, but she couldn't deny that it made her feel alive in a way she hadn't in years. The next day, Sarah arrived at the foundation, her mind racing with curiosity. She tried to focus on her work, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the message from Jonathan. What could he possibly have planned for her? As the day went on, she found herself growing more and more impatient. But she didn't want to appear too eager. She had learned that, in this world, patience was key. Eventually, just before the end of the day, Jonathan appeared in the doorway of her office. "Are you ready?" he asked, his eyes twinkling with excitement. Sarah stood up, her curiosity piqued. "Ready for what?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Jonathan smiled. "Come with me, you'll see." He led her out of the office and down the hall, through the sleek modern building and out into the cool evening air. They climbed into his car, and after a short drive, they arrived at an upscale art gallery. Jonathan turned to her with a grin. "I wanted you to see this," he said, his voice full of pride. "I've arranged for your first exhibition." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. An exhibition? She hadn't even dared to dream of something like this. I don't know what to say," Sarah whispered, overwhelmed with emotion. "But why?" Jonathan glanced over at her, his smile softening. "Because I believe in you, Sarah, and because I know you have a story to tell. This is your time." He opened the door and gestured for her to step out. As Sarah walked into the gallery, her heart raced. This was it. This was the moment she had always dreamed of, the chance to finally tell her story and share her passion for art with the world. And it was happening because of Jonathan, because he had seen something in her that she hadn't yet seen in herself. Stay tuned to find out how Sarah's journey continues. Will she take this incredible opportunity to embrace her passion and her future? Or will her doubts hold her back? Keep watching to see what happens next. The night of Sarah's first exhibition was something she had only dreamed of. But now, standing in the gallery, surrounded by the faces of art collectors, critics, and the city's elite, she could hardly believe it was real. Her paintings, once tucked away in her small apartment, now adorned the pristine white walls, each piece telling a story of pain, hope, and resilience. She never thought her work would be seen by so many people, let alone be featured in such a prestigious setting. Jonathan stood beside her, his presence both reassuring and overwhelming. He had made this happen, this exhibition, her chance to show the world what she was capable of. As guests wandered through the gallery, admiring her work, Sarah felt a strange mix of pride and nervousness. She had come so far, but there was still so much she didn't understand about this world she was now a part of. The world of wealth, opportunity, and people who could change everything with a single word. "You've done it, Sarah," Jonathan said, his voice low, almost as if he could sense her hesitation. "This is just the beginning for you. I'm proud of what you've accomplished." Sarah turned to look at him, the gratitude in her eyes unmistakable. "I can't believe this is really happening," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I never thought I'd get here." She paused, her thoughts momentarily drifting to her old life, to the woman she used to be, scared, unsure, always struggling to make ends meet. Now, standing here, in front of her own art, surrounded by people who appreciated it, she realized just how much she had changed. Jonathan smiled, his eyes softening as he looked at her. "You've worked hard for this. Never forget that," he said, his tone gentle but firm. "But remember, this isn't just about the art. It's about your journey. It's about you." The night continued, and Sarah found herself in conversation after conversation, answering questions about her work and her inspiration. She talked about the struggles she had faced as a single mother, the pain of feeling invisible, and how painting had become her way of coping with the world. Every word felt like it was lifting a weight off her chest, as if, by sharing her story, she was finally freeing herself from the past. But despite the success of the night, despite the applause and the admiration, there was still a small voice inside Sarah's head asking why Jonathan had done all this for her. She knew he was a good person, but why had he stepped into her life so deeply? Why had he given her a chance when no one else had? She still didn't have all the answers, and as much as she wanted to ignore that nagging feeling, it kept coming back. Later, as the evening wound down, Jonathan approached Sarah once again. "You've earned this moment," he said, his gaze sincere. "But I want you to remember something. This is your time now, Sarah. You're no longer just surviving, you're living." Sarah looked at him, the weight of his words settling in her heart. She had been surviving for so long, just trying to get by. But now, for the first time, she felt like she was truly living. "Thank you," she said quietly. the words barely enough to express the gratitude she felt. "I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done." Jonathan shook his head, a small smile on his lips. "You don't need to thank me, Sarah. You've done all the hard work. I just gave you a little push. The rest is all you." As the last guests began to leave, Sarah stood by the window of the gallery, looking out over the city. The lights shimmered below, and she felt a deep sense of peace wash over her. This was her life now, a life she had built from the ground up, with a little help from Jonathan, yes, but it was her strength, her perseverance, that had brought her to this moment. She had no idea what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid. She was ready to face whatever came next, ready to take on the challenges and the opportunities that awaited her. And maybe, just maybe, she could finally start believing that she deserved it. Stay tuned to see how Sarah's journey continues. Will she uncover more about her connection with Jonathan? Will she continue to embrace the new life she's building, or will her past come back to haunt her? Keep watching to find out. The following weeks were a blur for Sarah. Her first exhibition had been a huge success, far beyond what she could have ever imagined. The feedback from the guests was overwhelmingly positive, and her work was being noticed in ways it never had before. But as the excitement began to settle, a sense of unease started to creep in. Every time Sarah thought about Jonathan and the life he had given her, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to their connection than just kindness. She had never questioned his motives before. But now, as things progressed, she began to wonder, why had he chosen to help her so much? What was he really looking for? It had been a few weeks since the exhibition, and Sarah was sitting at her desk in the foundation's office, reflecting on the journey she had been on. Her life had changed in ways she never could have imagined, but now she faced a new challenge, finding her place in this world, a world that had always seemed out of reach. She glanced down at the journal Jonathan had given her, the one she had been using to write about her experiences. In it, she had poured her heart out, documenting every fear, every joy, and every step of the journey. But something was missing. She was still unsure about her relationship with Jonathan. He had done so much for her, but did he expect something in return? That evening, as she sat at her apartment, the weight of these thoughts continued to press on her mind. The apartment, which had once felt like a temporary escape, now felt more like a cage. She longed for answers, but she didn't know how to find them. Just as she was about to call it a night, there was a knock on her door. It was Jonathan. He had come by unannounced, his face more serious than usual. "I need to talk to you," he said, his voice low and urgent. Sarah felt a rush of anxiety as she opened the door to let him in. "What's going on?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Jonathan stepped inside, his expression unreadable. "I've been thinking a lot about everything," Jonathan said, his voice tight. "About the foundation, about you, and about everything that's happened between us." Sarah's heart began to race. She had been expecting this, but she wasn't sure what it meant. Was he going to pull back? Was he about to tell her that this was all just business? He continued, looking at her with those intense eyes. "I've done a lot for you, Sarah. I know that, but what I've been keeping from you is that I don't just want to help you, I want to be there for you. I want to be a part of your life, not just as a benefactor, but as someone who genuinely cares for you. This isn't just about charity or business deals. This is about us, about me and you." Sarah froze, her mind racing. She had suspected that there was something more, but hearing it from him out loud sent a wave of emotions rushing through her. She had never allowed herself to think this way, to consider the possibility that Jonathan might truly care for her beyond everything else. She had been so focused on surviving, on protecting herself and Jamie, that she hadn't allowed herself to see what was right in front of her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence in the room was thick, and Sarah could feel her heart pounding in her chest. She had no idea how to respond. She had never been good at letting people in, at trusting them completely. She had been hurt before, and the thought of risking her heart again was terrifying. Jonathan seemed to sense her hesitation. "I know this is a lot to take in, Sarah, but I'm not asking for anything in return. I'm not trying to pressure you. I just want you to know that I'm here for you, for Jamie, for whatever you need." His voice softened, and Sarah could see the sincerity in his eyes. "You've been through so much, and I want to help you heal. But I also want to be someone you can trust, someone you can rely on." Sarah's mind was spinning. She had spent so long shutting people out, pushing them away, that the idea of someone caring for her without wanting anything in return felt foreign. But there was something in Jonathan's words that made her wonder if she had been wrong all along. Maybe she wasn't alone anymore. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to let herself trust again. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision on her shoulders. "Jonathan," she began, her voice trembling. "I don't know if I'm ready for this. I don't know if I can trust someone like that again. But maybe I can try. Maybe we can try." Jonathan smiled, relief flooding his face. "That's all I'm asking for, Sarah. Just a chance. And I promise, I won't rush you. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere." In that moment, Sarah felt a shift within her. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid to take the next step. She didn't know where this would lead, or what would happen next, but she was ready to embrace the possibility of a new future. A future with Jonathan, with Jamie, and with a life that was finally starting to feel like it belonged to her. Stay tuned to find out how Sarah navigates this new chapter. Will she be able to fully open her heart to Jonathan? Will the challenges of her past continue to haunt her? Keep watching to see what happens next. Weeks passed, and the connection between Sarah and Jonathan grew stronger. She had slowly begun to let her guard down, allowing herself to trust him more. They spent more time together, both professionally and personally. As her confidence in her own abilities continued to grow, so did the bond they shared. Jonathan was always there to offer support, encouragement, and a listening ear when Sarah needed it. He never pushed her, never rushed her, but instead gave her the space and time she needed to come to terms with her emotions and the complicated feelings she had for him. Despite the progress she had made in accepting Jonathan's help and presence in her life, Sarah still found herself questioning the depth of his feelings. She wondered if he truly loved her or if it was just a sense of responsibility, his way of helping someone who had fallen on hard times. She had been burned before, and though Jonathan had never given her any reason to doubt him, her insecurities still lingered in the back of her mind. One evening, Jonathan invited her to dinner at a private restaurant overlooking the city. The ambiance was intimate, with dim lighting and soft jazz music playing in the background. As they sat down to eat, Jonathan looked at Sarah with a serious expression, a look that immediately caught her attention. "Sarah," Jonathan began, his voice steady but filled with a certain weight. "I know I've been patient, and I've respected your space, but I think it's time we talk about something important." Sarah's heart skipped a beat, unsure of what he meant. Was this the moment where he would pull away, where he would reveal that his feelings for her were nothing more than charity? Or was he about to confess something deeper? She swallowed nervously, trying to steady her breath. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jonathan reached across the table and took her hand gently in his touch warm and reassuring. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about everything we've shared," he said, his eyes soft but intense. "Sarah, I want you to know that I don't just care about you because of what I've done for you. I care about you because of who you are. You've shown me more strength, more resilience than anyone I've ever known, and that's why I'm here. I'm not here out of obligation. I'm here because I want to be. I want to be with you, not just as someone who helped you get back on your feet, but as someone who loves you." His words hung in the air, and for a moment, Sarah felt like the world had stopped spinning. Her heart raced as she processed his confession. Love. The word echoed in her mind. She had never allowed herself to believe that someone like Jonathan, someone so powerful and successful, could truly love her. She had spent so many years feeling unworthy, convinced that her past, her struggles, would forever define her. But now, Jonathan was telling her something that felt impossible to accept. He loved her. She looked at him, searching his eyes for any sign of doubt, but all she saw was sincerity and affection. She had spent so long keeping people at arm's length, afraid of being hurt again. But in this moment, she realized that her fear had been holding her back from the one thing she had always wanted: to love and be loved in return. Slowly, Sarah took a deep breath, her chest tight with emotion. I don't know what to say," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "I never thought I'd feel like this again. I've been so scared to trust, scared to let someone in. But Jonathan, you've shown me that maybe, just maybe, I can take that risk." Her voice cracked as she spoke, but she was determined to be honest with him. Jonathan's eyes softened, and he gave her hand a reassuring squeeze. "You don't have to say anything if you're not ready. I just wanted you to know how I feel. There's no rush. We can take this one step at a time, together." His words were like a balm to her heart, soothing the fears she had carried for so long. The rest of the evening passed in a blur, with Jonathan continuing to show her nothing but kindness and understanding. They talked about their hopes for the future, about what they both wanted out of life, and slowly, Sarah began to believe that maybe this was real, that she deserved this kind of love, that she deserved to be happy. As they left the restaurant, Jonathan walked with her hand in his, the night air cool but comforting. For the first time in a long time, Sarah felt a sense of peace settle over her. She wasn't alone anymore. She had Jonathan by her side, and she was finally beginning to let go of the past, to embrace the future. Stay tuned to see how Sarah navigates this new chapter in her life. Will she fully accept Jonathan's love and all that comes with it? Or will her past continue to haunt her? Keep watching to find out. Months passed, and Sarah's life continued to transform in ways she had never imagined. With Jonathan's love and unwavering support, she embraced her new reality. The foundation had become her second home, and her art had found a place in galleries across the city. Her relationship with Jonathan deepened, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. But there was still one thing on Sarah's mind that she had yet to address: the truth about Jonathan's feelings. Despite everything they had shared, Sarah needed to hear it from him one last time. She needed to know that his love was real and not out of obligation. One evening, after a long day of work, Jonathan invited Sarah to his penthouse for dinner. The view from his apartment was breathtaking, the city lights twinkling like stars in the night sky. It was their favorite spot to unwind, and tonight, as they sat down at the table, there was a quiet tension in the air. Sarah had been thinking about this moment for a while. She needed to know once and for all what Jonathan truly wanted. As they sat across from each other, Jonathan looked at her with a knowing expression, as though he sensed the question she had been holding on to. "You've been distant lately," he said gently, his voice filled with concern. "Is something wrong, Sarah?" Sarah took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. She had come so far, but this was the one thing that had been holding her back, this one fear that still lingered. "I've been thinking a lot about us, Jonathan," Sarah began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "About everything we've been through, everything you've done for me. I need to know that you really love me, not because of what you've done for me or because of some obligation, but because you truly want to be with me. I need to hear it from you." Jonathan's expression softened as he reached across the table, gently taking Sarah's hands in his. "Sarah," he said, his voice calm but filled with sincerity, "I have never done any of this out of obligation. I love you because of who you are, not because of what I can do for you. You've shown me a strength I didn't know existed, and that's why I want to be with you. I love you with all my heart. I've loved you for a long time, but I had to give you the space to see it for yourself." Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her, and for the first time, she allowed herself to fully believe in his words. She had been so afraid of trusting him completely, but now, standing in front of him, she realized that he wasn't just a man who had helped her get back on her feet, he was the man she had been waiting for, the one who saw her for who she truly was, and loved her unconditionally. "I love you too, Jonathan," Sarah whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. "I was scared, but now I know that I don't have to be. You've shown me what it means to love and be loved in return." Jonathan's eyes lit up with joy as he leaned in to kiss her gently on the lips, sealing the promise they had made to each other. It was a moment that felt like a lifetime in the making, and for the first time, Sarah felt whole. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was living, and for the first time in years, she could see a future that was full of possibility and love. As the night went on, they talked about their hopes for the future, their dreams, and everything they wanted to build together. Sarah knew that life wouldn't always be easy, but with Jonathan by her side, she was ready to face whatever came their way. They had both overcome so much to get to this point, and now they could finally embrace the happiness they deserved. In the weeks that followed, Sarah continued to flourish in her career. her art now recognized by people she had once only dreamed of impressing. She and Jonathan spent more time together, creating a life full of love, laughter, and mutual respect. Their bond grew stronger each day, and they built a life that was their own, one step at a time. And so, Sarah's journey, which had started in pain and uncertainty, ended in a love that was real and enduring. She had found not only success but also the love she had always wanted. And with Jonathan by her side, she knew that anything was possible. Stay tuned for more stories filled with love, hope, and transformation. Comment yes if you want the next chapter in Sarah's story, and make sure to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update.